Welcome back, everybody. This is Failing Forward. If you are a returning listener, guys, thank you so much for tuning back in again. If this is your first time, my name is Jared Wunderlich. I'm your host. And honestly, guys, this has been an episode that I've been super excited to not only record, but have you guys listen to as well. With me today is truly one of, I want to say my oldest friends, but really we've known each other probably the majority of our lives.
I think so.
But our friendship didn't really take shape or have that much depth until maybe just the last 6, 7 years, maybe something like that.
Yeah, probably.
But the guy here across from me, guys, is someone I truly look up to. He's someone that kind of laid the groundwork for me specifically in regards to what I expect from my own life. And you know, this is news to Tony, and we have a lot of deep conversations, but I honestly have never said that to you personally, but it's absolutely true. And that's why I've been so excited for this moment. You've just been the perfect idea of someone to sit down with for the intention and purpose of this show. Guys, Tony is a serial entrepreneur. He's a bodybuilder, nationally recognized bodybuilder. He's built multiple businesses from the ground up. He's failed with some, but he's also building what I would very much consider an empire with another. Guys, this is Tony Polidoro.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on, Jared. I'm super excited, man.
Absolutely,
and
man.
Thanks, man. That was to the heart.
Yeah, I had to rewrite that like 17 times, and I still didn't even use it. But guys, for those of you that don't know Tony, I know a lot of our initial listeners are people who know me personally, and some of you probably know Tony personally. Maybe you follow him on Instagram, or at least are partially aware of who he is as a person. But again, this is someone who really went against the grain, against traffic, against the tempo of the water from a very young age. And what I mean by that is I remember being 15 years old, freshman year of high school. This is a time where people are pretty scared to be themselves. You kind of would rather be a part of a group than be something you're on your own. And you took that to an extreme. You literally had, you didn't give a single shit about what anybody thought. And you decided to pursue something that I don't think anyone really had experienced before, which is still kind of interesting to me because now it's such a big part of my life, or at least was. But looking back on it, you decided to pursue something that was just so out of left field, and you followed it with your head held high. Like, tell me about that.
Man, I guess I've never really looked at it in that perspective, but it is actually, I would say it's the truth. And I feel like I have been definitely against the grain kind of person, but it's with a very like genuine intent. You know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of us are just almost scared to hash out some maybe deep things that we've gone through, whether it's trauma or whether it's, failures, that we don't really want to process, which ultimately just holds us back from being who we really are and who we really want to be. So I've kind of that's just been my mentality. It's like, I want to be uncomfortable because that being uncomfortable is the only way you're really, really going to grow. And you're going to be challenged and it's going to suck sometimes, but ultimately it's only making you more and more equipped to be better at whatever you decide to do. So, and there's always that element of, I've always been a people pleaser. What's the most fulfilling to me is helping other people. So that boils down into every business I've done, every transaction I've done, with my business partners or whatever the case is. And if we're making a decision, it's always, okay, well, what's the right thing to do? Because I want to make sure that as I grow, it's also providing other opportunities for other people, but also it's always going to help me sleep good at night, and helping other people maybe be inspired to realize that anyone is capable of unlocking their potential. It just boils down to wanting to do it. Absolutely.
I know I didn't mention that I was going to bring that up, and I did that intentionally because I wanted to get as genuine response as I could.
Threw me off.
But I've always really respected that about you, that you chose to pursue something as obscure as bodybuilding at a point in your life when everyone, again, is trying to fit in, is trying to be a part of a team or a group. And you picked probably the most independent sport in existence. And not only that, but it's a sport that really no one was super aware of or was familiar with. Um, but I've always really respected that. And as I've gotten to know you further over the years, I think it's a huge indicator of why you are who you are today. You've
Yeah.
just, even if there is a fear, you decide to pursue what you know is right for you, regardless of that fear. And
Mhm.
honestly, that's amazing that you did that at such a young age. Because there are people our age now, closing on 30, that still are
Jeez.
fearful or have anxiety about doing what is different than what is expected of them.
Mm.
And I've just always thought it was really amazing that you chose to kind of bet on yourself at a very young, impressionable age. So honestly, hats off to you in that, man.
Thanks, dude. That's pretty cool.
Um, but
Yeah.
but right now, guys, Tony is a busy guy. Is there a
Yes.
better word for that? Is it?
No. Really busy.
I'm honestly super, super stoked that we were able to get this episode scheduled and done so quickly.
Yeah.
When I initially reached out to you, I thought that it would take a while for us to be able to get
Mhm.
together. Because like I said, guys, Tony is a serial entrepreneur. He's started 4 businesses total over the
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and one of which takes up a very, very big portion of your day,
Mhm.
not only from the leadership aspect,
Yeah.
but as well as kind of the main floor aspect. You also handle clients just like a lot of your contracted employees.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you have a very, very full plate just in regard to that business,
Yeah.
and not including the other stuff you have your hands in. So I know there's a lot of people who, myself included, struggle with staying focused throughout long, almost competitive days. And by competitive, I
Mhm.
mean it's you against you. It's either you're going to get this done and you're going to keep progressing and moving forward, or you're not. You're going to allow yourself to succumb to being tired, to being exhausted, to not having the time or energy.
Mhm.
And I think you and your wife, Lauren, do this amazingly. And I know a lot of
Yep.
people look up to you guys for this. So, one, if you don't mind, walk us through a typical day for you and Lauren, because I
Oh.
think it's important
Mhm.
that people get a firsthand perspective of this.
Yeah.
Because guys, you don't fall backwards into being a successful business owner. This is
Mhm.
something Tony's worked for again since he was very young.
Yeah.
And this isn't something that started like this on day one. You worked up to this point, but it still requires a lot of time and dedication. And I think it'd be really, really impactful for some people to really understand what you do to make
Yeah.
what you do happen.
Man, a typical day. So I would say, I think it's important if you're really trying to get, I guess, maintain focus, it's going to boil down to what's really, I guess making yourself a priority at some point. And typically, that's why I'm a really big advocate for like morning routines, right?
Hmm.
So, and I know you have one as well, right? A lot of successful people do because it should place a high, I guess it should be very important within your routine to maintain this level of not only dedication, but also just clarity
Hmm.
to
Absolutely.
stay focused. So morning routine's big for me. And I feel like sometimes, we can always read these self-development books and they're great. They give you good tools, but it's really crucial to kind of build your own morning routine that works for you. And sometimes simplicity is king. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like I want to do 1 to 2 things in the morning that's truly for me, right? It's not for my team at that point. It's not for my wife. It's not for, anything else. It's really just the demands of me to maintain my focus and, keep that motivation high, I guess you could say. So what that boils down to is, either read something typically pretty still, like we've talked about, just quiet, a little bit slower paced because as soon as the day gets rolling, you you're not going to have that opportunity. You know what I
Sure.
mean? So if I were to recommend anything, it's like just take it slow. Do you like to read? Do you like to meditate? Do you like to stretch? Do you like to work out in the morning? Go on walks, get outside, just do something that's for you. Even if it's just sitting and having coffee, it's that idea that puts you in a state of clarity and it's stillness. Put your freaking phone away
I was gonna
because
say
that's a huge one.
that's probably, I would imagine, what most people struggle with the most, especially now. People really don't have alarm clocks anymore. We
Mhm.
use the alarm, app on our phone.
Mhm.
And as soon as you roll over to turn that off, you're immediately seeing this stream of notifications across the top of the phone.
Mhm.
even if you're an extremely disciplined person, it's hard not to at the very least pull that tab down and go, all right, like, let me see the title of these emails. Let me see
Hmm.
these notifications on Instagram. And I mean, we're all aware of it, whether you read these things or listen to these podcasts, we're all aware that there's an unhealthy aspect to immediately um, exposing ourselves to that stress.
Hmm.
Um, and not only the stress aspect, but I've also recently heard that the dopamine release that we get from like the social media notifications
Hmm.
actually isn't that beneficial to us in the first thing in the
Hmm.
morning because when we're waking up, and again, I'm not a brain person. I
Yeah.
like to read about the brain,
Yeah.
but if I say this wrong, I apologize for someone who knows more than me that's listening. But if I'm not mistaken, when we wake up, we're more in a theta state, meaning we're very impressionable,
Hmm.
and that's why we're more creative at that time of day. So when we immediately flood our brain with these little dopamine releases from like these social media notifications, uh, we tend to spend most of that day seeking that same high
Yeah.
rather than spending time like what you were saying where you're doing something for yourself, maybe
Hmm.
still releasing dopamine, but you're doing it because you're appreciating what you have,
Yeah.
you're acknowledging this time and energy and space that's
Yeah.
that's just yours and yours alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's cool that you say that. And I was not super aware of that, being that you're in that state and that's when you're most impressionable, I guess you could say. And that's what I was gonna get to too. It's like if you look at your phone and you see an email and it's not a good email, because as business owners, some days suck
Yeah.
and that's how it starts. Guess what? You just set your tone for the day. That's why I don't look at my freaking phone right away.
Yep.
Because then it's like, oh man, is it gonna be a good or bad day? Well, why
Right.
am I letting an email dictate that?
That's a hard thing to overcome. I
Hmm.
I struggle with it. I try to not look at it right away. Um, it's tough though. I mean, today, for example, Tony texted me this morning, and
Hmm.
I didn't see it for about 20 minutes because I was on my walk, and I'm pretty good about not looking at my phone while I'm on my walk. That was kind of a rule I made for myself. Like that's the time to be in my own head. Like get outside,
Hmm.
wake up a little bit. So today I did well with that. Other
That
days,
was good.
not so much. I
That's why I wasn't upset.
yeah. All right. So you cover a couple, one or two things
Yep.
for you,
Yep.
whether that's meditation, stretching, exercise, having that moment or few moments to
Hmm.
yourself. From there, once your day kind of starts getting into the grind, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So then I'll eat, and then it's because me and my wife are pretty big on like let's have breakfast together because who knows how the day's gonna lead.
You guys clearly don't eat well at all.
No,
Just
no,
by
no.
looking at you, I can tell.
So we typically have breakfast together, and then honestly, it's I dive into either business conference calls, Zoom calls, whatever the case is, with business partners or some of the team members that are running projects for us to kind of see where we're at. Um, and then just go through emails. That's
Yeah.
my time to go through emails because now I have a little bit better of better clarity. I'm in a better state. It's not going to be an emotional response, right?
Sure.
So then I go into emails, and then it's really dive into projects that are currently on my plate. How do we address them? Work through them. Then it's a lot of responding to clients, and then I take a little bit of time, which that's hours. Like,
Yeah.
all of that is pretty much the majority of the day.
Sure.
Um, and then it's, try and get to the gym, spend some time again on myself, and then get back to another round of responding to clients, and then it's shut down for the night. Same kind of thing.
Do you kind of have
Put
a
the
wind
phone
down
away.
routine like you do in the morning? Like a
Yes.
reverse?
Yeah, a little bit. It's harder to maintain. And that's
Sure.
that's why to me morning is more important,
Yeah.
but everyone's different. But morning's a little bit more important because by the time the day starts rolling, if you're a business owner or you want to be a business owner, it's mind-blowing how many things are going to fall on your plate in one day. And, one day might be totally quiet, the next day might have 10 issues that you have to address
Right.
today. So, I can lose control of my day very quickly. So therefore, it impacts my evening routine. But if it was in a perfect world, I would say it's phones away. Honestly, I'm not against TV time, but it's also controlling it. So it's like maybe watch one or two episodes with my wife and try and get to bed early.
Yeah.
So, but when does that wind down time happen? Depends on the business.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
depends on the day.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Business in the day. Yep.
Yeah. I'm
100%.
sure that's the case for most people. I mean, I think everyone probably tries to stick to some form of a routine, whether you're, in this self-improvement consciousness or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are drawn to a form of routine just for the sake of having that comfort. And
Mm-hmm.
a little bit today, and I know we're gonna get this in a little bit more in other episodes as well, some other guests, but we're gonna highlight that comfort's not the greatest thing in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of like rest,
Yeah, there's a
mentally and
difference. Yeah.
physically,
Mm-hmm.
there's a place for comfort.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to go to sleep when you're stressed, and
Yep.
sometimes that routine can help bring those anxiety and stress levels down,
Yep.
allow us to sleep better and feel better the following morning and be more successful with that routine in the morning that
Mm-hmm.
we want to follow as well.
Yep.
It's funny you mentioned like TV time, because that seems like a big topic now. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are like, "Oh, blue light, you got to wear your blue blockers, you got to,
Mm-hmm.
do all this stuff." Um, and I've read into that a little bit too as well. To the point where I have my blue light blocker on all of my devices
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Like I just try to avoid it.
Yeah.
Recently though, I heard that there's actually negative benefits to artificial light of any color
Mm-hmm.
during specific times of the day.
Yep.
Um, for example, a study showed that if you regularly experience exposure to light of, again, any color, um, through the hours of 11 p.m. to 4 a.m., I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
over time, that actually creates higher and more significant depressive thoughts. It also affects obviously our ability to sleep and have a
Mm-hmm.
restful sleep as well. But that was actually one of the biggest surprises for me is that you can actually experience more depressive thoughts by regularly exposing yourself to light through that portion of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Really makes you think about the biological side of humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're living in a world that we were not really created to live in.
No, it's disrupting humans.
It is.
Yes.
Like we were built and designed, whether you believe in God or evolution or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we're fundamentally built to respond to natural light of the sun.
Yep.
Waking up is the same.
Mm-hmm.
I actually shared on my Instagram, I think it was last week. Um, Getting outside and experiencing exposure to real sunlight as early as you can is extremely crucial because it actually causes a good production of cortisol, a little cortisol spike.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it's good is because that cortisol spike causes increase in alertness, just general awakeness.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually feel better quicker when you expose yourself to natural light earlier in the day. And two, this is what I found super interesting. You start a internal biological clock the moment you see
Mm-hmm.
sunlight for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
16 hours later from that moment, our body produces melatonin to prepare us for sleep.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get outside early and you tell me you don't sleep well, I'm going to go ahead and guess, like, again, not a doctor, but I can probably pinpoint why there's a problem.
Get
Like,
outside.
yeah, get
Go
outside.
on a walk.
That's
Yeah.
literally, after learning that, that's literally why I started walking.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, that was
Because
it.
there was a lot to that.
And what's funny is like, it's like more motivating. Like,
Mhm.
because normally I'm like, like it's kind of cold out this morning. I don't want to go.
Mhm.
But like for those of you who are, maybe hearing this and going like, well, I live in Seattle or what if it's cloudy or things like
Yeah.
that. So light is measured in a unit called lux, LUX.
Mhm.
Any light outside, whether it's overcast or not, is roughly around the 50,000 lux mark.
It's up there.
That same light coming through a window, if I'm not mistaken, down to about 1,000. Extremely different.
Yeah.
Extremely
efficiency
different.
of the house.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Super interesting stuff. Like just light in general. It's really making me start to think of what other tools and resources do we commonly use through the day that are actually a little bit counterproductive towards
A
what
lot.
we're trying to do biologically.
A
And
lot.
It's a lot.
Our bodies weren't equipped for it.
No.
You know what I mean? So now you can almost make the argument that we're evolving again. Because
Would you call it evolving or devolving?
that's that one I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point, right? Because now we almost all these tools make life easier. So
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how you use the tools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But on that
Absolutely.
note, with light at night, that's actually I read a book on it. I think it was like Sleep Smart or something, and he
I
talked
remember
about
you
that.
talking about that.
Yeah, and
You
it's a great
highlighted on
book.
Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and he talks about that because that time frame, what you were saying was 11 to 4. That's when your like growth hormone levels and IGF level,
Yep.
that's when they're optimal. So if you're interfering with that, that's why we're essentially never recovering,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, I love falling asleep to TV.
Oh yeah.
But it's a bad habit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
I'm the same way.
and bless my wife because I love her to death. She sold our TV in our room and
She just
yeah,
sold
oh
it.
yeah, just
Not even
sold
like,
it.
hey, Tony, let's try
Yep,
not
just
watching the TV.
nope,
You
sold
came
it.
home and it was
It's
gone.
gone.
I love that. She didn't even like put it in the garage. It was just like, no,
Just
it's
gone.
gone.
Yeah, so she, because she believes in that. So now it's, instrumental music and no
Oh,
light whatsoever.
I like that.
And that's because she's big on, which I've adopted too, is don't mix spaces, right? Like you'll
Yeah.
never see me working on my laptop in my room
Mm-hmm.
because now I'm mixing energies. And that's, it depends on how deep you want to get on the energy level. But at the same point,
Do you want to go there?
it's very, very true, right?
It is, dude.
That's not meant to be a workspace, so I don't work there. I
Right.
sleep there. That's
Dude,
where I sleep.
All right, this is not in my notes to discuss
Yeah, I
today,
know.
but I want to go there now.
Okay.
Dude, so space and time
Mm-hmm.
have memory.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically just said that yourself. When you consistently return to a certain space to perform a certain activity and you do it
Mhm.
at a certain time, you are more likely to continue experiencing the productive, positive outcome that you were first experiencing when you started this activity.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take things like your work computer
Mm-hmm.
into the bedroom, your mind is making the connection that this is now a place to work. This is a place to be alert, to
Yep.
think cognitively. This is not a place for rest. This is not a place to start
Mhm.
shutting down. That has impact. Like it really
100%.
does. We condition
100%.
ourselves to we basically fight ourselves almost. Like we condition ourselves to not be this very routine creature, which
Mhm.
we are biologically.
Yeah, you can't fight that.
Yeah.
You know. Oh yeah, no, that's a
good.
good one, dude.
Dude, the example
Yeah.
I love about that, because like I don't like the phrase space and time have memory. It makes me, I feel like I sound very hippie. And I
Yeah.
kind of don't care, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I'm like if I heard someone say it like 4 years ago, I'd be like, dude,
Like, what are you talking about, man?
come on.
Yeah. Let's be
Like,
real.
go walk through a
But
field.
no, seriously, if you
But
dive into it, it's real.
It is. Like an
Mhm.
example I love to use is like, okay, like let's use you as an example.
Mhm.
Tony, do you work out?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I know this.
Yes.
But yeah, you do. So
Where are we going with it?
follow me. Do you have a gym that you like to work out more than others?
Yeah. I've never really thought of that, but yeah.
Like
for
I know
sure.
you travel a lot, but you've
Yeah.
got like a home gym.
But there's also there's certain gyms I like to go to when I travel.
Sure.
Right?
So those certain gyms,
Why?
why do you like them the most?
It's the environment.
The environment,
Puts me in a space I need to be in.
The
to
atmosphere?
Do what I need to do. Yeah.
the energy.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Right there,
That's
because
and everyone
Yeah.
should understand this.
yeah, it's a very simple understanding. We are naturally drawn to certain environments for specific activities,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something we condition ourselves to.
Oh yeah.
If you walk into a gym for the very first time, you've never been there, and there's people there working hard, there's people there dedicated to their time that they're
Mhm.
spending there, and that's what you're trying to do as well. It's easier for you to continue coming back to that space and having the same
Yes.
experience, even if you're the only one in there later.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the other people because you've created this perspective of energy previously.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Yeah, you should not mix these work and rest environments. I'm all in with that on you.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And another good example, dude, is like when you go visit your parents. What is it? It's comfort, right? Like we're always that's a source of comfort to us, you
Sure.
know, or grandparents when you were growing up.
Yeah.
You know, it's another good example. So yeah, it's hard to make the argument that that's not true, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's mixing spaces there's some truth to it, you know, and that is like a non-negotiable in our house. The
I love that.
laptops do not enter the room.
Well, and these are things you guys discuss regularly. Like
Yeah.
you guys make sure you're on the same page with this stuff.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
I
sometimes,
really,
I mean,
really
she just
admire
sold
that
the
about
TV,
you.
so.
You know, because I'm sure that's not the case with a lot of couples. Like there's one
Mhm.
partner who's like, no, this is the way I'm doing things, and the other one's like, well, I'd really appreciate it if we did this. You know,
Mhm.
and there's a little bit of trouble or hardship in that because home is an area of comfort. It's an
Mhm.
area of something you expect. And if you're constantly, on a different level than your partner, the person you share the space with, that can create some waves.
Talk about messing up energies.
Yeah. This actually makes me want to stop falling asleep watching things. I stopped watching it on the TV, and now what I do is I turn on like Netflix on my phone with headphones, and I do turn it face down on the bedside table, so I'm not watching, I just listen. And I'm basically at this point, I'm making excuses. Like I'm like, look, Tony, look at all the things I'm doing.
Slowly getting there.
I'm not watching it on the 37-inch TV. I'm on this one, and it's quiet. Like
it's not the same.
No, I'm making excuses. That's true.
Yeah.
I need my wife to just sell my things.
Yep. Go ahead, tell her.
Oh my god,
sell my things.
My wife can't listen to this. I'm gonna come home to nothing.
We don't have any TV.
It's like Lauren did what? All right. So very, very hectic, busy days on average basis.
Yep.
That requires a very high level of focus and alertness to your task at hand. Anything you're doing to keep that focus high, or is this something you had to train yourself to do?
Oh, totally train myself to
do.
Yeah, because I feel like I've always used this with my clients too, and my team, is like there's different like thresholds we all have, or capacities that we have, and to me it's gradual if you keep pushing the envelope, right? Like if you ever noticed, this is the best example I kind of like to put it in, right? So I look up to Tony Robbins. I think he's phenomenal. It's amazing what he's done.
Absolutely.
Dude owns how many businesses, right?
A few.
Didn't just dive into it. And if you think one business is hard, then how are you going to handle two if you don't change and adapt and start to find different routines that are going to help you manage all these things, right? Like I could not imagine having all the businesses we do now, the team as big as we do now, from the get-go.
Yeah.
It would crush you, right? But it all boils down to you actually wanting to implement and research and figure out what works for you to manage these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to be so successful, guess what? Things are going to have to change, and they can either change negatively or positively. And how are you going to do it? So that's why I'm big on self-development. You need to listen to other people. And this is why I was so pumped to do this podcast. It's like, you always got to listen to podcasts, pull out these tangible things that you think you could implement in your life, because those are the little practices that are going to help you get to the next level. Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the things that I've come to find that have been super successful for me. And that's the thing. Everyone's different. So try a bunch.
Right.
I've tried some that don't work and I don't do them.
I like the advice of take something that's been proven by someone successful and then make it your own. I like that. You don't have to have it be exactly the way it was, described to you.
No, because that's
take it, try it, and adapt it to you. Like,
yes. Yeah. That's why I'm like, almost every morning routine should be different.
Right.
Right. It's the same principles.
Yeah.
But what fills you back up? You know what I mean? Or what gets you that clear focus that you need. So, but yeah, some of the things I do, because I do want to give some tangible tips, because that's what helped me listening to podcasts and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm big on setting alarms on your phone. So like if I'm replying to texts, because truthfully, I probably get 1,000 texts a day, if not more.
Oh my God.
So it's a lot, right? But how do you not just get absorbed in that, respond to everyone, and then continue to respond to everyone, because it's never ending. You're texting someone. You know what I mean? It's more conversational. And that's how, we communicate with our clients when we're not doing, the virtual coaching calls or anything like that. So setting alarms, like if you're that's big. And that one I learned from my wife, because she does it all the time and she's great at it. And it's like, okay, I'm only going to text for 10 minutes. Well, set the alarm for 10 minutes. When it's done, you're not texting anymore. Move on. You know what I mean?
Wow. So you're giving yourself an allotted amount of time to complete a task. Mm-hmm. And when that alarm goes off, that is your time to move to the next task.
Yeah. Watch how more efficient you'll be.
Wow.
Right? Because if you don't have really talk
about being harsh on yourself. Like, and I don't mean that negatively. Like, wow. Like, I mean, especially for people who kind of have trouble with discipline. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people. Like I have to implement little practices to help raise my discipline.
Yeah.
That's probably something I would benefit from, because I am that person that I can start one thing and I just keep going with that one thing.
Get down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But yeah, put a timer on it, because it's proven if people have deadlines, they perform better, right?
Sure.
Takes out the element of procrastination or distraction. Like, this time is meant for this. That's what I'm doing. When
Yeah.
it's done, I'm done. Well, then you better hurry.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that's been big. Limiting distractions is huge. Like, I've, turn off notifications. That stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So phone, laptop, whatever the case is, the stuff that banners that are popping up, you're going to go down the rabbit hole and then you're going to forget. It just makes you unproductive. You're not
Sure.
efficient. You know what I mean? So limit as many distractions as you can when you're working on one project, because that's the project,
Yeah.
and we're also giving our timeline for that project. So you should be really efficient at it because nothing's steering you down a different direction. And that has been hands down probably one of the hardest things I've had to master. But when you get into a good flow of it, your productivity is way higher.
Well, especially
know?
for someone like you guys who work so much off of your devices, your
Mhm.
laptop, your phones, like you just mentioned, a lot of your communication is through text. So those distractions are right in your face. Like,
Mhm.
other people, they're working off a work computer or they're working
Mhm.
directly with a customer or a client. So some of those distractions they're in their pocket or on their desk
Mhm.
um, for at least a larger portion of the day, and you don't have the ability to be distracted by it until you pick up the device.
Yeah.
It's right in front of you all the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's probably something more and more people are starting to experience now that we're working remotely.
Yeah.
They're working from home, have the ability to have their phone on them at all the time.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, that's something I think a lot of people can take away from.
Well, and it's, even if we take it at the level of, you're not working on your laptop or you're with, direct with someone else, is your mind actually there?
Sure.
Because you're thinking about a text that you just got because your pocket just vibrated.
Right.
Well, get the phone somewhere else. You know what I mean? So there's other ways to really implement that practice, because we get distracted very easy. Like,
Oh yeah.
what's the attention span of a human? It's like less than a goldfish, right? So
I
it's very, very
imagine so.
quick. So,
Yeah.
it's like we've got to stay in that space. And that's also just being present. And the best way to be present is to pull everything else out so that you can actually be involved in the conversation. It's like what we started with when we when we started this podcast. I was like, well, I'm gonna put my phone upside down, or I'm gonna take it out of here because I do not want the distraction because I'm present here with you.
Right.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
You
Did
know?
I get a timer? Is it running?
Oh no. Yeah, we only have 60
Like
seconds.
10 minutes from now, it's gonna go off. Like, sorry,
And
man.
I'm out. See ya.
That's my time. Oh, good. Thank you for that. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
No, you're absolutely right though. I mean, focus is something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Mhm.
It takes a very rare individual to just naturally have good focus.
Mhm.
I mean, I've recently learned that most of where our cognitive focus comes from is where our visual focus is,
Mhm.
which was an interesting thing for me to read and try to understand because you kind of think you almost don't initially think that way. You think your brain is kind of jumping from thing to thing to thing in your head, but it's responding to the senses. It's responding to what you see, what you
Mhm.
smell, the vibration that you feel.
External stimulus.
Those external stimuluses are
Mhm.
what's causing that focus to jump around. And that led me to a practice that I myself haven't implemented yet. I was telling you about this the other week, but it is something I want to do because I am one of those people that is very easily distracted by these other things going on around
Mhm.
me. But something you can really easy do. Any one of us, just take a piece of paper, like a note card or something, draw a target on it
Oh yeah,
and
that's right. Yeah,
set it
this is
up
cool. Mhm.
across the room from you, like 20 feet away, sit away from it
Yeah.
and stare at it visually. Give it your visual focus
Mhm.
and re- and do your best to avoid looking at the things that are trying to steal your focus, like the noises you're hearing outside the window, the fly that's,
Mhm.
buzzing by your head. And over time, you actually have the ability to extend the amount of time that you can maintain that level of visual focus. And in doing so, you're also improving your cognitive focus as well.
So it's like a practice that increases your.
Cognitive focus.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
mean,
I remember
it's so
us talking about that. It's
simple.
so simple
But yeah, it's not
and it's
something I've tried
easy.
yet, so I
Mhm.
can't sit here and say, "Hey, this worked for me."
Makes sense.
But it's something I
Mhm.
kind of want to do because, like, I can find 30 seconds to do that once a
Yeah.
day. Like, that's not like you have to spend an enormous amount of time doing it.
No.
But isn't that horrible? Like that 30 seconds is something that would actually benefit you, like that's how short our attention span is.
Yeah.
Like we
I'm
can't
out.
stare at something for
Yeah.
30 seconds.
I
Like,
can't do this. This is exhausting.
Instagram.
And back to Instagram. God damn. Yeah.
So yeah, your day obviously, and you're just week to week, month to month requires an enormous amount of focus. I've always been incredibly inspired and motivated by what you guys do, and honestly, I love what you and Lauren have chosen to show about your lives in terms of social media. And again, this is another thing that I didn't really have planned to talk about, but I do want to mention it. Like we're caught in this obsessive cycle of only highlighting our wins in life, our successes. Like, hey, starting a new business, bought a new house, got a new car, got engaged, we're pregnant. Like, fantastic. Those are great things.
Yeah.
You have
celebrate them.
every right to celebrate and even show those things. But that's not life. Like those are little tiny lapses of time in this much greater experience that we're and I'm not saying we have to show everything, but what I guess what I'm getting at is I love that you guys have taken this approach and chosen to be more vulnerable with the people that follow you. And for those of you guys that don't know, Tony and his wife both have pretty considerable followings. Those are things that they built up themselves by providing valuable content, by sharing what they've done to get to where they are, by talking about books they've read, practices they use, conversations they have with each other. Because they genuinely want to help people, and they understand that sharing those vulnerable, less shiny, beautiful moments are the more beneficial ones. And it aligns so perfectly with what we're trying to do here at Failing Forward. I mean, those are the moments that we truly learn from. And I know you guys, even before coming on the show, are absolutely doing your part in that. And it's very, very notable and admirable, honestly.
Well, it's genuine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's,
And you don't like doing it.
Social media?
No, like being vulnerable. Typically.
Yeah.
At least when you started, right? Like I remember you and I had a conversation where you told me like, dude, I'm kind of struggling being this person that I know I should be.
Yeah. I think that boils down to an insecurity levels. You know what I mean? And that's, the conversations we've had before of, do you really want to dig up those demons, process them, and figure it out? Because those insecurities are probably holding you back.
Yeah.
And when you get to a threshold of, where your success is or where you want to go, the only way to get better is to start figuring out what's actually holding you back. And I can tell you it's not anyone else but you.
Yeah. You can't find an external answer for an internal question.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So that did take time, 100%. And now, it's just turned into the fact that, because I am a people pleaser, and I want to help other people, it makes me feel good to share my struggles, because now it's turned into, I know I'm not alone, and someone else might need to see this because they might not know what to do, and hey, maybe I don't know what to do either, but hey, we're not alone in it.
Right.
So it's like, it's another way to help people. If I'm not sharing these, I feel like I'm doing, an injustice to people.
Yeah. There's a very real difference in what you feel internally when you do post something positive. When you post a win and you get, I'm saying you specifically because my Instagram is not what yours is. But you specifically, when you post a win, you get dozens of comments of people congratulating you, showing their support for your win. They're proud of you. And those feel good.
Yeah.
But I would be willing to bet that when you do choose to be more vulnerable in a post and you have one person reach out to you to thank you for what you did, that lands and hits harder than the dozens of congrats.
Yeah, because anyone can say congrats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And who's to say it's, 100% authentic? Maybe they're just trying to play the social media game, but when someone reaches out because they had a struggle and this helped them, well, you made a difference in that person's life.
Those are the little things that over the course of the last few years have continued to push me down this road to where I'm at now. Because as I mentioned in the very first episode, I chose that, hey, I didn't know where this was going to take me. I didn't know how to do this, but I knew the first step was just to be more vulnerable and open about what I do experience, because it allows other people to see who I am and feel more comfortable with it, me, and hopefully sharing their internal struggles as well. And that's exactly what happened. You had people reach out and say, hey, like I would like to talk to you about this. I do need a little bit more support in this part of my life. And it wasn't many people. It was, you know, a couple here and there to
Yeah.
start. And it doesn't, impact doesn't have to come from great numbers,
No.
you know?
Mm-mm.
Impact comes from a very genuine personal space, and
Mm-hmm.
you really almost don't get it in great numbers. Like you don't have the opportunity to experience that from a crowd.
Yep.
You only get that in a small group or one-on-one setting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is because like a lot of people aren't going to want to admit to it, right? So if one or two people DM on a a vulnerable post because it helped them, how many people did it help that they just won't say it?
Right.
So
Right. Ha-
maybe there is a greatness of numbers you just don't know.
yeah, exactly. You know, give yourself the opportunity to reach the people who you won't hear from but will be appreciative of what you've done.
People are watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. We're taking a short break from our episode to inform you that season 1 of the Failing Forward podcast is brought to you by Atlas Nutrition. Atlas Nutrition is a team of health and fitness experts that are dedicated to helping you achieve your overall health and fitness goals. They offer personalized plans for weight loss, body transformation and recomposition, digestive health, corrective nutrition, performance-based nutrition, and contest prep. They have an extensive team of experienced coaches ensuring a proper match in both personality and your desired goals. Atlas has been in business for over 6 years, but members of their team have been committed to helping others for a lifetime. Regardless of what you hope to achieve in terms of your health and fitness, they will have the right coach and the right program for you. I'm proud to say I know the owners and many of the coaches personally, and they understand that not everyone has the same needs. They'll help you choose the right program for you. I couldn't be more proud and excited to partner up with Atlas Nutrition for this season's sponsorship because I know they uphold the failing forward mentality. Whether it's to their coaches they employ or the clients they support, they prioritize the importance of properly feeding the mind, body, and soul. They understand that growth and development comes from more than just our nutrition, but everything we absorb. If you're searching for accountability, education, and guidance in pursuit of improving your physical health, contact their team at atlasnutritionllc.com or visit them on Instagram at Atlas Nutrition Official. And remember to tell them Jared from Failing Forward sent you. At Atlas Nutrition, you will always be their number one priority. The only question left to ask yourself, are you ready to make your health your number one priority? So the other thing I want to talk about today is, and this is actually probably one of the more exciting things for me personally, because this is something I haven't heard. So the other week we were talking about this a little bit. We discussed manifestation or visualization, or just the ability to bring things that don't currently exist into existence into our lives. Um, for me, I like to meditate. It's something I've been trying to improve on for the better part of 2 years or so. I have good days with it. I have less than good days. But for me, that's my time to disconnect and visualize. You and Lauren included like to practice this a little bit differently, which I love because, again, you don't have to do everything the same way that everyone else does.
Yep.
Take something that you know works and make it your own. And this is what you guys did. So,
Mm-hmm.
so tell me a little bit about your experience and Lauren's experience with vision boards. And would you mind explaining what a vision board is real quick, just for the people who have never heard of it?
Yep, that's good. So Lauren and I are big on vision boards and writing down goals, right?
Yep.
So, and we push that on our clients and our team. It's crucial. It helps keep that clarity and focus on what you're trying to accomplish. So, but a vision board is essentially, go get a poster board and you're going to go through magazines and cut out pictures or stuff or symbols or whatever the case is that would represent things that you want in your life, right? So now you're kind of connecting with your brain what you're looking to achieve, whether it's possessions or big accomplishments or traveling, whatever the case is, right? So that's a vision board. So we put it all on a poster board, and we keep it in our office every year. So when we started doing this, I've never thought of doing a vision board, dude, but that's the best part about my wife. She's freaking amazing and she just thinks outside the box and she always wants to keep pushing. And I cannot remember the year because I feel like we've been doing this for many years, but since the first one, and that's the cool story, is the first vision board solidified why we do it every single year now. So, I think it had to be 2016 or 17 maybe. So it's only been a couple of years, but we've done them every year since. And we were in Estes Park on a little bit of like a weekend getaway. And she's like, okay, I got a surprise for you. It's gonna be fun, and we're like, all right. So she ended up bringing everything with, and she's like, we're gonna do a vision board. And my response is, what the hell is a vision board? So I get it if you guys don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
know either, you know. Um, and then so she explained it to me. I have no idea where she got the idea. I should have asked, but so we made one, and it was a really cool experience because it's also the same idea that you touched on earlier. It's putting us on the same page. You know what I mean? Like, what do we really
Yeah.
want to accomplish?
Creating a common goal.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and the cool part that we kind of incorporated was like almost we're doing individual ones for, which ones, like, what do we want to accomplish personally, but also together.
Sure.
Right. Because marriage is teamwork, So that's basically what we did, right? So we built out our vision board, and there were a couple things that kind of just that I want to highlight because these are the ones that really turned into holy crap, we have to do this every freaking year.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe we put like 15 pictures on there, and they represented something, and we wrote the goal underneath each picture, right? So, and it was like get our own place, so it wasn't buy a home or anything like that. It was just get our own place because at the time we were living with 2 roommates in a really shitty apartment in Fort Collins,
Okay.
And then the other one was one of Lauren's was get out of her job by like June or something like that of the upcoming year. And we also had one of, at the time we had Atlas, but it was nothing what it is today. So one of mine was I want to triple Atlas. Like I want to get the company to literally triple, which at that time the numbers were small, so it could be accomplished, And then the other one was actually create another revenue stream. So it was kind of cool. And then we go into that year, and it always sat in our office, or maybe at that time it was probably just sitting in our kitchen or something that we could see it, so that you can kind of help develop that subconscious pathway and remind yourself every time of like, yeah, okay, what am I doing? Oh yeah, that's right. That's what this is our goals, so that we continuously keep that in the forefront of our mind, And the way that year turned out, and there was some other stuff like, like what was it, like get back into cooking and all that kind of fun stuff, whatever.
Sure.
Travel more, all the, other goals, but ultimately the ones that stuck out were those that I highlighted because oddly enough, and we didn't really realize this until the end of the year, because at the end of the year, this is actually when we take the vision board that we made and we check things off, right?
Okay.
So Lauren quit her job in June. Weird, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what she said she wanted to do in the date.
Yeah.
And then it was create another revenue stream, right? Because at the time, and that's the cool thing with vision boards too, they might not work out exactly what you're looking for, but it will work out in some way because now you've created that awareness that you can seize the opportunity because, your brain's working.
Right. You're almost
subconscious.
opening up your
RAS.
Say more about that.
The reticular activating system.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, for forever might not know what that means. It's the best example of it is like when you buy a new car, you see that car everywhere.
Right.
So vision board's a very similar concept, but on a much greater personal scale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're looking for it. You're looking for the goal. You're looking for opportunities to achieve it.
Yep. So yeah, so she ended up actually quitting her job in June. We ended up opening Nova Tans, so that was additional revenue stream. Atlas did triple, and then oh shoot, what was the last one I said?
Place of your own?
Yeah, place of our own. So my business partner, still to this day, ended up having to move to California for contract work, and he asked us to take over his house. Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
So we're at the end of the year, like, how did these huge things actually happen in 1 year?
Right.
So at that point, it doesn't matter. Like to us, it was like, well, we have to do this every single year.
Absolutely.
And we do. And I swear that this is unbelievable. And it's like, you can't go, I would recommend not going too crazy far of like, here's 50 things I want to do. But we always try to do about 12 to 15. And almost every year since, we've checked off anywhere from 8 to 12.
That's amazing.
It's crazy, man.
Wow.
So that impact, although I wish I could explain it better, But do we even have a real explanation for it besides the basics of it's just painting the picture of
Yeah.
and reminding you so that you can see the opportunity? Shit works.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
So,
That's something Annie and I have wanted to do for a long time. We even went out and got all of the material to do it. We just haven't set a time to actually sit down and do it. And I know it's something we need to because I mean, you guys know us pretty well. We
mhm.
kind of fly on similar wavelengths
Yeah,
as you guys, and
yeah.
um, I think that's something that we could absolutely learn from and grow from together.
Mhm.
And I think this story is honestly going to be what ends up being the catalyst in us doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, the other thing I like about vision boards as a whole is I think it has the ability to help people visualize an ideal future or a specific future, even if you don't necessarily have the skill of visualization.
Yes.
And typically, people either have this or they don't.
Mhm.
People either have the ability to enter, the darker part of their mind and build something very visually realistic
Mhm.
that doesn't exist yet,
Yep.
or you don't have that skill. But building a vision board brings that visual aspect into existence so it doesn't have to only exist in your mind.
Mhm.
Not only that, but this also ties into that focus topic that we were just discussing.
Mhm.
You're constantly, if you're placing it in the kitchen, the office, the place that you spend a lot of time, you're constantly visually focusing on these images that
Mhm.
represent specific goals. And now your cognitive focus is tied to these images and specific goals.
Mhm.
So you're constantly reminding yourself of it, and you're bringing it into existence. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's the
You
absolute truth. And Joe and I had talked about this a little bit the other day. Um, it, there's a very real ability to create essentially anything as long as you have the ability to believe you're capable.
Mhm. Yep.
And capability starts with being able to visualize it, being able to see it.
That's step 1.
Yeah,
Yeah, write it down or
yeah,
look at it. Mhm.
I like that,
Yeah. Well,
man.
and I feel like we've heard these stories before too, right? Like if you're someone who is in this space that likes to dive into personal development and hear other successful people's stories, there's multiple accounts of this where they have a picture of a house that they liked and then they tucked it away, you know, and moved several times. And 10 years later, they're living in a house that looks exactly like the
Right.
house of the picture that they saved. And it's like, it actually works,
Yeah.
and I think it all boils down to, how are you manifesting it? Like, what are your intentions behind it? How important is it to you? And now you're telling your brain, hey, these are my priorities.
Hmm.
Focus on it. Your brain's a tool. You just got to use it.
Yeah. Absolutely. That was great, man.
Yeah. This is
Um,
cool.
so I do want to make sure we save some time to
Yes.
talk about a couple pieces of your relatively recent past, because I just think they tie in so perfectly with the intention of the show. Not
Hmm.
to say that what we've already discussed hasn't been great, because
I
I've
hope they
loved
like it.
I've
Yeah.
loved this conversation so
Me
far.
too.
Um, but you mentioned Nova Tans, that actually came to be because of the vision board. That was you guys
Hmm.
saying we want another stream of income,
Yep.
and that came to be through Nova Tans, which was a tanning salon
Yep.
up in northern Colorado. Um, Ended up, I mean, obviously from that perspective, that's an amazing thing. You brought into existence this thing you wanted to accomplish.
Hmm.
But that story didn't stay as perfect as that
Oh,
description.
God, no.
So can you briefly tell the listeners a little bit more about your experience with that business, and more importantly, what you learned from it,
Hmm.
if you don't mind?
Yeah. So, honestly, Novotans. So that was, like I said, we already had Atlas. It was really in the beginning phases. And Novotans was something that Lauren really wanted to dive into. And full transparency, when she said that she wanted to quit her job and do this, it was money that we had saved up, to buy a house and like invest in, I guess, more of our future life and family and stuff like that. So it was hard for me to break that idea,
Sure.
right? But at the same time, what does a good husband do? You support your spouse and they'll be able to be unstoppable. So that's why I was like, you know what? All right, let's do it, Um, and it was the most challenging business I've ever done. And it was so frustrating. And honestly, it was a, yeah, like you said, it's a tanning salon.
Well, I just want to point out this
Yeah.
was not something you guys purchased as a business that was already
No,
established. You built this from the ground up. You
which
literally went into a vacant space
vacant space.
and built this space to be a tanning salon.
Yeah.
Like so it's not like these guys just walked in and were like, "Oh, we're taking over a company that already has a customer base and people know it's
It's an
here."
empty building.
You literally brought this into existence
Hmm.
from the ground floor in a very literal way.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally built it with her dad.
Yeah.
The walls and all. So, yeah, so that was our first, like, brick and mortar business. And it was extremely challenging. We were new to being business owners and learning a ton. And with, with the ability to learn comes from failure, like, which is the theme of this, which is why I love it, is that, it tested us on levels I never thought imaginable, right? Like it truly tested our marriage. And that's the part that I like, that I really wanted. When Jared was asking about this, I told him I really wanted to talk about this because not a lot of people know about this part because, we were younger and we didn't put it on social media or anything like that,
Sure.
so because it wasn't like, what is it, airing your dirty laundry, so at that time, we didn't know the lessons that could be taught to others from it. But at this point, I want people to know, right?
Yeah.
So when we did Novotans, it tested our marriage to the point where we almost got a divorce, which is crazy. And it, like, yeah, it's an emotional thing about it now. It was really, really tough. And but at the same time, it also like brought us together more than I would have ever expected. After we realized that if we just freaking work together, we could make this happen. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, yeah, it tested us financially. Like we dumped all of our money into it. It almost went, we almost had to close the doors several times. And that was just us making, new business owner mistakes, So it was, as far as learning from that, as far as learning from the failures that it had, we were able to turn it into a success. But it really did boil down to every mistake we made, we either looked at it as like, all right, we're done. This isn't going to work. Or we got resourceful and figured out how to make it work. But to even get to that space, we had to work on us, right? Like, how do we work together? Because at this point, we were just destructive of each other. You know what I mean? Which is, again, it's crazy because I don't think people would even believe it, you
Sure.
know? But yeah, I think ultimately we ended up actually reading a book called Five Love Languages, and that changed our entire perspective on marriage because it's and if you haven't read it, I recommend reading it anyways. Even if you're single, it doesn't even matter because the concepts behind that book can be applied to every relationship, business, friends, family, marriage, whatever the case is. But it dives into the fact that people are wired to, accept or appreciate affection in certain ways, and that's how they communicate. But we all are trying to push, like, what we feel, what fills our cup of, like touch or gifts or, communication or whatever the case is. We try to push that on our partner or our
Right.
business partner. And so we act in that way because that's how we want it to be received. Well, that doesn't work because you need to act to fulfill the other person. You
Right.
know what I
It
mean?
almost kind of goes against the old saying of treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
Although that's a great
It is a
saying,
great,
it's
yeah.
fantastic.
Morally, that's
Yeah,
great.
morally fantastic.
Hmm.
But if you are always approaching people in terms of what you would like to have from others,
Hmm.
they still, it doesn't mean they won't appreciate what you're doing. They won't appreciate
Hmm.
the effort and the end gift or service. But it more than likely probably isn't landing the way you intend it to because they're not
Exactly.
you.
Yeah, they're not, right? They might appreciate things in a different way,
Right.
and you're not giving that to them. So therefore, you create a bigger divide,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and this is an area where this is not just you guys having a balanced and healthy relationship as a married couple.
Hmm.
This is a balanced and productive relationship
Hmm.
from a shared business owner's
Oh yeah,
perspective
yeah.
to the point where it's not just the relationship at risk. It's
Hmm.
it's the employees that you have at the
Yeah.
business.
Just
It's
taking
the
care of
business
people,
itself.
yeah.
It's your part of your livelihood, your income.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more at risk at that point.
Mm-hmm. So it was crucial that we figured it out,
Absolutely.
So yeah, we dove into that book and, and it took time. That's the thing. It's not like an overnight shift, but at the same time, you have to understand it takes two people and you both have to want to try.
Right.
So we had to get into a place of wanting to actually try, And yeah, so that book helped us change our perspective dramatically. And then we started treating each other differently. And then after that foundation was built, we could grow from it to be like, man, okay, if we were able to repair from that, that almost ended us within like 2 years of being married.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, well, what else can we do? Right. So how do we push that further?
Yeah.
And then it was, okay, how do we let each other run with our strengths, stay out of each other's lanes, but support each other? There's a difference, right? Like if I'm doing the books and she's, managing the employees, I shouldn't cross over and cause confusion. I should stay in this lane. But when we're behind the scenes, we're working together to find out the best way to do that. So they're not alone, but that's their responsibility. Don't intermingle because it's going to get more complicated, cause more tension, and create more relationship issues and business issues. So, and there's the advice that I got actually from my parents that honestly changed my perspective as well. And it was great. It was remember to separate, remember when to be a best friend, like when to be a best friend, when to be a husband or wife, and when to be a business partner. And that has
Wow.
stuck with me ever since because I've implemented that in everything I've done. Even with Justin and I, who own Atlas Nutrition, it's if we're best friends, and
Yeah.
everyone says don't go into business with best friends. Well, I disagree. We've been very successful at it, but how have we been successful at it? Adopting that approach of when we're talking about business, our best friend aspect is over here on this table, and we're not going to look at that right now because right now we have to make a business decision because someone's messing up or someone needs to have, that chat of step it up. That's not impacting the friendship at all because we put that aside for a second to focus on the business. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then conversation's done, not a fun conversation to have. Cool, let's bring that best friend back, that part back into, our relationship so that we can keep moving forward. And that's what people really struggle with because of emotion. You have
Yep.
to separate your emotions or you're going to struggle with that forever in every aspect.
What I really love about that is you don't even have to be in business with your partner
Mm-mm.
to benefit from that advice.
Nope.
A married couple or even just a serious couple,
Mm-hmm.
who's been together for a while, they're your business partner.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be open about finances and what those finances are being allocated towards.
Mm-hmm.
You both need to be aware that your life together is a business and it's going to take both of you
Yep.
in order for it to be successful and for it not to go under.
And it's going to take work.
So I love that. Like I wouldn't even change the term business partner if I
Mm-mm.
was trying to relate that to someone who's not in business with their
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that
spouse.
was that I added that part.
Yeah.
Because ultimately my parents were just like separate marriage and when do you need to be the best friend when they're
Yeah.
struggling? And when do you need to be the husband?
What's funny about that is literally like 3 weeks ago, PJ and I had a work related disagreement because as you know, I am in business
Mhm.
with my best friend as well.
Yep.
And basically I won't get too much into it, but a project had been placed on my plate. It was understood that I was going to oversee this. It got done and we got the result we wanted, but PJ was not entirely satisfied with the quality of how it was done.
Mhm.
To him, it could have been better. And I disagreed, and I stood my ground, and I
Yeah.
expressed to him that I disagreed, and explained why. And we were literally on the phone with each other. Actually, the conversation started over email, and we were literally like
Dangerous.
being upset with each
Yeah.
other via email. And then this rolled over into a phone conversation later in the day, and it continued, and we were expressing our displeasure with the other person, and then we came to a resolve, but you could tell we were both still like a little agitated. But then like as quick as a flip of a switch, PJ just goes, "Anyway, man, how are you and Annie?"
Yeah.
And I was like, Good, good. Like, what do you and Ken's have any plans this weekend? And like, we immediately were like, all right, like that's set aside now. Now
Yeah,
let's talk like best
that's
friends.
how it should be.
And it
Yeah.
like we both kind of laughed at it in the moment, just
Mhm.
because like it was such a quick transition. But even without being discussed, like there are ways to make endeavors with good friends
Yes.
work. And personally, it's probably something I'll always value and maybe even continue to try to replicate in the future, because
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
when you know how someone works and you know where they're most effective
Mhm.
before even starting something with them, it gives you such a great opportunity to be more productive together.
Oh, yeah.
You're not learning from floor one what makes someone tick. Do they really have the ability to do
Mhm.
this? What
It's a
things
learning
should I
curve,
take
man.
off their plate?
Yep.
You don't have to go through that trial and error phase as much, because you know the person very genuinely and personally.
Yep.
So I agree with you. I think
Yeah.
depending on the people, you can
It
absolutely
always
go into
depends on the
business.
people
Yeah,
and the friend or the family member, but ultimately, if there's that level of trust, build off of it. And holy cow, you could probably accomplish some pretty cool stuff. You know?
absolutely. Wow, I love that. Um, there's a lot to take away from that, guys. There's a lot to take away from this conversation. I think Tony
Mhm.
said a lot of really, really great things today. But there's a lot that can be taken away from that story in regards to Nova Tans, because we all have a relationship, whether it's your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Maybe it's just a good friend that is a very big part of your life, or maybe a parent or a sibling. It's important for us to understand both who we are and who they are in the
Mhm.
relationship. It's important to understand what they expect from you as well as for what you expect of them.
Mhm.
And it's important to have the conversations around it as
That's what we're
well.
missing,
You
man.
you can't assume that you know how things should be said or done.
Mhm.
Um, if it's a new relationship, yeah, you make your best guess.
Mhm.
You take the information and you put your best foot forward and you learn from the mistake if there's one made. But for those serious relationships, it's important to have those uncomfortable, vulnerable conversations of,
Mhm.
what do you really expect from me as your partner, whether it be business related or not?
Mhm.
Because you can't, as you said, you can't work cohesively towards a common goal unless that information is very plainly laid out first.
Yeah, and imagine what you can do if you do work cohesively. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You truly can be unstoppable, and that's with, again, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, friend, family member. Relationships all boil down to the same principles. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So yeah, that can be that whole story could be, I hope people take from it that it can change a lot of aspects of your life as soon as you understand that and start working towards it. But it also is going to take work, and it's going to, yeah, you're going to have to be vulnerable, and sometimes that sucks. But ultimately, if you can be, look at where you can go.
Yeah.
Because ever since that moment, as shitty as it was, I'm grateful for it every day.
Oh yeah, I would imagine you and Lauren both attribute a lot of what you guys have at your disposal today
Mhm.
to that experience together.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Absolutely, man. We're kind of starting to wind down on time a little bit, but I want to make sure we briefly touch on one more topic. Um, and you've kind of briefly introduced us to it a little bit earlier in regards to kind of your routine. You mentioned that a very important part of your personal day is fitting in that time for you specifically to focus on your physical and mental health.
Mhm.
And for you, you're one of those people that those kind of tie in together very closely. Your mental health has benefited from your physical health.
Mhm.
Um, tell us a little bit about not necessarily who you are right now in that regard,
Mhm.
but who you were when you were a little younger in your early 20s, and you learned the benefit of setting aside time for you, and how it's affected you moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's I think it's we have this, I guess like this motto or mantra that we kind of teach our clients, teach our entire team of like, you can't pour from an empty cup, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard it, maybe they haven't, but it's a very, very good principle to understand, because it's like if you're trying to help other people, or even if you're trying to, tackle new projects or move forward on new goals or whatever the case is, if you're empty, how is that going to be possible, right? And what does that really mean? It means that you can never really put your own priorities or your own things that fulfill you, kind of back to that morning routine, on the back burner. And if you do, and if you do it too long, of course, it's going to dramatically impact your mental health because now you're just pouring all your energy and everything else, right? And you're forgetting about yourself. So your mental state starts to deteriorate, right? Because we're not getting that reset that we ultimately need. So I think that's something I've had to learn too. Because again, being a people pleaser, we want to help everyone else and we put everyone else forward. But, ultimately, and we've talked about this, and I've always struggled with depression, anxiety, and I've definitely have episodes, and I still have episodes, you know what I mean? And it sucks. But ultimately I can kind of start to see where they're coming from because it's where I start to totally put everything that's important to me personally, as far as like working out or time with my family and friends or whatever the case is, shoot, playing fetch with my dogs. If that stuff starts getting backburnered, I know something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like the mental health's just going to go down the drain. And how am I supposed to help people anymore if I can't help myself?
Hmm.
So it's always just remembering that importance of you you can help more people if you're in a better state, right? And if maybe this resonates really well with people pleasers in the sense of if you're always saying yes to everyone, then you just keep going on the back burner. You're overwhelmed. And yeah, you might just keep pushing forward, which is what I did. But ultimately, you're going to hit a point and it's going to be a breaking point where if you don't take care of yourself, this people pleasing part, you're not going to be able to help anyone. Right. So being the being at your best is going to allow you to help even more people. So that's kind of been my motivator and my reminder when things like when I start back burning, the important aspects of my life that fulfill me or fill my cup, I have to remind myself of that of like, dude, your mission in life is to help as many people as possible. That's not just within my company. That's not just within my team or my marriage or my family or my friends. That's everyone. I want to help as many people as possible, which is why I wanted to do this podcast. So it's like, if that's my mission, I have to be at my best. And how do you stay at your best? You know what I mean? And that's going to be different for everyone. But it's remembering that because if you let those priorities slip, you're not going to be able to help people at the capacity that you wish you could, you know?
If you don't mind me asking, and I don't think I've asked you this before, I've known that that's been the mission that you've held close
Yeah.
for years.
Hmm.
Was there something specific that brought you to that conclusion, or is there a handful of moments that started creating that visual for you? I guess what I'm trying to ask is what brought you to that mission? Because I know the vast majority of people have trouble identifying a purpose, a mission,
Yeah.
something to chase that does provide fulfillment. That was a huge thing for me through childhood, through my early and even into my mid 20s. And ultimately, defining it for myself was a very, very significant turning point or impactful moment for me in terms of my own mental health and fulfillment.
Hmm.
So I'm just curious, is there a little bit of a story in terms of how you came across that for yourself?
I don't know of a specific story or like an event, or even like a time frame. I feel like it's been gradual, but it's been for me to be able to kind of figure that out of what's fueled that purpose and why that is important to me or helped identify that. I'd have to say it's not feeling good enough. You know what I mean? Which is that's going deep and that's, unraveling deeper layers of yourself to figure out, okay, why would you not feel good enough? And I feel like that was just kind of why I was so driven to help other people, which is interesting. You know
S-
what I mean?
So you're saying you recognized a change in how you felt in terms of, let's say, worthiness
Yeah.
when you started helping people. Am I correct to say
Yeah,
that?
I think it made me feel better. You
Okay.
know what I mean? So I kind of tied the me not feeling good enough. I know I'm not alone. I want to help other people feel worthy. You know what I mean? Like and and maybe you can, talk on this too. It's like in high school, I feel like I was friends with everyone. There was no specific group like we talked about, right? I went kind of against the grain. And it was like it's because I feel like everyone's facing these really internal battles, and so am I, right? So sometimes they don't have the support or maybe even the drive, even the motivation to want to figure out what might be holding them back on such a deep level. And maybe they just need someone to help them. Maybe they just need someone that actually genuinely is asking them questions because they care. You know what I mean? And that's what got me into Atlas Nutrition and developing it into what it is today. It's, we're a coaching company that, helps with nutrition and training, but at the same time, like one of our main principles within our company, or one of our main pillars, is education and like mindset, right? Like our, I guess our fitness pillar is mind, body, and soul. And it's because if you can't tackle that mind part, you're never really going to be able to achieve what you really want to achieve, whether it's in fitness or, just that fulfillment in life. And I think it's because people don't have support very often, and sometimes if someone like, have you ever had those conversations where it's just a genuine conversation where you're like, wow, that person cared so much that it like takes you back. You're like, whoa, I'm shocked they actually listened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, imagine if you could do that for someone and it changes their life. I feel like too many people are going at all this alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved every minute of that. You made me think of two things that really impacted me and are going to continue to make my mind continue to spend time on this
Hmm.
for some time later today.
You're welcome.
But that's why I love sitting down and talking with
Hmm.
you, though. Like this is what all of our conversations
I
end up
know,
being.
it's awesome.
But to briefly touch on those, when you interact with anybody, whether this is someone new or someone you've known for a long time, you are either interested or you're focused on appearing interesting.
Hmm.
So am I listening in order to in turn respond to something I think you'll enjoy hearing?
Hmm.
Or am I truly listening to understand what you're saying and feel you?
Hmm.
And the reason I bring that up is because you 100% are the person who's interested.
Yeah.
You are the person who will sit across from a stranger, someone they just met, and really want to understand their life, what they're going through, and what they're
Hmm.
hoping to achieve. And I think part of that comes from the fact that you believe in your capability to be that catalyst for them as well.
100%, dude. That's the word I use all the time. I
Yeah,
want to be a catalyst for people.
exactly. And it starts with what you think you're capable of, what you
Hmm.
believe you're capable of. And because you believe that, it changes the way you approach speaking with people.
Hmm.
You enter the situation with a predetermined expectation or result.
Hmm.
And that expectation is I will know this person on a much deeper level so I can now provide them with tools and resources to
Hmm.
help. And that's such a rare thing. That is so rare. And I think social media makes that worse. And I feel like we've just been sitting here bashing social media and light and devices all day.
It
And don't
has
get me wrong,
great purposes.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
tool. Unfortunately, sometimes we become the tool for it, but
Yep.
we just see it a lot. Everyone is so focused on what people will think of what we're saying, what we're posting, what we're wearing, how we're being perceived in this artificial world or the real world, even if it's off
Whatever
social
it
media.
is.
But
Yeah.
we're so obsessed with that we do spend a lot of time focused on how what we're doing, posting, saying, being perceived.
Yeah.
When the more productive, regardless of your mission or purpose, the more productive way to approach anything is to leave with the understanding of who that person is.
Hmm.
More will be accomplished there.
Oh, yeah.
That was beautiful. I'm so glad I saved that for the
Me
end
too.
because I think that was an awesome,
I don't even
awesome
feel
thing
like
to
we
end
talked
on.
about that yet. That was good.
No, dude, that's the thing is, like, just so my listeners understand, I like to have conversations with the people I have on my show before they come in, so we can create a little bit of an outline of things I think will be impactful for you guys. And I've known Tony, as I mentioned, for a long time. So I've known some of these stories, and we've even discussed some of them over the years.
Mhm.
But every time we come up, even in a situation like this, even every time we reevaluate these, we always find something new about it. We're able to like, dive into it a little bit deeper, gain a different perspective,
Mhm.
and learn something ourselves as well. That's honestly been the most rewarding thing for me in this new endeavor is I have yet to come in here, hit record, and start talking and not walk away learning something new about myself. And it's been uh, terrifying and nerve wracking and anxiety filled, but it's been amazing.
Yeah.
And it's people like you that really contribute to that for me. So thank you, man.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you being here today, sharing with us what you did. I know this is stuff some of which you haven't shared with a lot of people or anyone.
No.
And I know the listeners appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
But I do want to make sure we do highlight Tony on the, horrible social media that we've been talking about. No, because Tony posts amazing things. He's someone that he uses it for the right purposes. Lauren as well, his wife, they're both phenomenal. If you liked really any piece of what he said today, I would absolutely recommend follow him on a couple of these platforms. On Instagram, he's just at Big Tony P753. I really don't think that name describes you at all. You're clearly not. No, I'm just kidding.
Doesn't make any sense.
You're mediocre at best. No, Big Tony P753. Give him a follow. You'll see his wife on there as well. She's an amazing person to follow and get to know too. You can also follow Atlas Nutrition on Instagram at Atlas Nutrition Official. And it's by the same name on Facebook as well, right?
I think it's just Atlas Nutrition on Facebook.
Atlas Nutrition.
Yeah.
But you guys have done amazing things in that community, in that health and wellness space. You've really taken a very unique and impactful approach in not only what you guys hope to do with your clients, but how you're affecting their lives on an individual basis. It's an amazing community. If any of you have ever considered working with a nutrition coach for any form of goal, I'd absolutely recommend
Mhm.
reach out to them, reach out to Tony. They'll make sure they connect you with the right person within their network to help you get there. Tony, thank you again, man.
Yeah,
I
thank you, man.
truly appreciate you being here today. This was amazing. I'm not in the least bit upset that we went a little longer in time because every single
Mhm.
minute of it was very worthwhile. Guys, thank you again for tuning in. Tune in next week, same time, same day for the next episode. Super excited to introduce you guys to who I have coming on next week. Follow us on Instagram. Failing Forward Podcast is the page. On there, you'll see clips of conversations like we had with Tony, as well as some teaser trailers for guests that are coming on the show next. So thanks again, guys. We'll be back.
Awesome. Thank you.